Blessings, everyone. Blessed Maundy Thursday. Happy Maundy Thursday. Give it a little bit to let some folks join. How is everyone this evening? Looking forward to joining with you on this holy day. If you make sure that you have supplies for communion, I'm typing just bread and juice or water, and also a bowl of water. I put a bunch of stuff in the, I thought I was going to do a little bit more with some prayer stations, but I think I'm going to keep it pretty simple tonight. But I do, if you can get a bowl of water and a towel. Okay. And I realized I don't have a towel, but I'm going to just do without. That's okay. Good evening. So let us gather with a word of centering. And let's see. Looking through here. So as people are gathering, wanted to say a little bit about Maundy Thursday, and that this tradition is, this celebration, this service is a remembrance of the Last Supper. And I think often when people think about celebrating the Last Supper, they think mostly about the fact that Jesus was about to die. And so there's this, and rightfully so, kind of a melancholy cloud over this night. And yet the name for this service, for this day, Maundy, comes from the Latin mandate, and which means mandate. That's where we get the word mandate from. But it's a new order, a new commandment. And so really the core of what this service and this night is all about is remembering Jesus's commandment to his disciples that they love one another. And that's the core of this night and this service, is remembering to love one another, and remembering to love ourselves as well, remembering to, if everyone loves each other, if we are loving one another, that means that some of us, all of us, have to also be receivers of love. And so on this night, we remember Jesus commanding us not only to be givers, but also receivers of love. And so looks like a couple folks are here. It's good to see you all. And so I invite us to enter into a time of worship and prayer. And let us begin with remembering the way that Jesus, we're going to hear the story. I grabbed my Bible. And we've been journeying through Mark, but we're going to journey through John tonight because John's account is a little more detailed than Mark's. Let's see. I didn't mark it. That's funny. Forgive me for a second. It's good to be with you guys. There we go. Sorry, I got a little off track, or lost my spot. Okay. So we are at the time of Passover, and Jesus and his friends have gathered in an upper room where they are getting ready to celebrate the Passover meal. And here we're going to read from John 13. And it says, Jesus, during supper, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all these things into his hands and that he had come from God and was going to God, he got up from the table, took off his outer robe, and tied a towel around himself. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel that was tied around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus answered, You do not know now what I am doing, but later you will understand." Peter said to him, "You will never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no share with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, then not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." Jesus said to him, "One who has bathed does not need to wash except for the feet, but is entirely clean. And you are clean, though not all of you." For he knew one who was to betray him. And for this reason, he said, "Not all of you are clean." And so I invite us into a ritual of washing this evening. And so hopefully you have your bowl of water. And if not, go ahead and get it, or a cup of water, but you're going to want to be able to catch that water somehow. And I invite us to, Marcia, you are at the right place. I invite us to wash our hands. And if you're with someone, I invite you to wash each other's hands. And so let's begin this together. I have a little bowl here to catch my water. I don't know that you're going to be able to see, but you seeing me is not really the point, right? And so let us wash one another's hands. And I invite us to think about or talk about, as we're doing this, when have you served someone else? When have you been in service to someone? And what was that experience like? Are there places in your life right now that you have a chance to be in service of someone else? And how does embracing your serving someone else, serving others, lead us into fuller life? And then I would also ask, like, sometimes that's an easier question, I think, to answer than I am thinking about what Peter's reaction, I think, is maybe more common for a lot of us, that we're happy to serve and we're eager to help someone else, but receiving that love and that care can be really hard. And so maybe your thought or your meditation or your conversation is around, where do you resist receiving love and grace and compassion? Where are there opportunities for you to receive? And so as we wash our hands, I'm going to make sure that, let's see, there we go. We are reminded that God's love and grace pours upon us, calls us to be nourished, be saturated in love, and be cleansed of anything that is getting in our way of God's grace and God's love, and in our way of receiving that care of others. Are you all washed? Clean? And so, friends, as the meal was progressing, Jesus talked about love. He talked about what he had done for his disciples. After he washed their feet, he put on his robe and returned to the table. And he said to them, "Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for that is what I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have set you an example that you also should do as I have done to you. Very truly, I tell you, servants are not greater than their masters, nor are messengers greater than the one who sent them. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them. I am not speaking of all of you. I know whom I have chosen, but it is to fulfill the scripture. The one who ate my bread has lifted his heel against me. I tell you this now before it occurs, so that when it does occur, you may believe that I am he. Very truly, I tell you, whoever receives one whom I send receives me, and whoever receives me receives him who sent me. And so I'm looking ahead. I want to gather now around bread and cup, and that Jesus gathered his closest friends on that night that he was betrayed. And I hope that you are gathered either with yourself and that you consider yourself a good friend to you, or that you are gathered with people whom you love. And no matter who you are gathered with, you are gathered in God's presence. And so we remember that on that night, Jesus took bread, going back and forth. Jesus took bread. And if you have bread, I invite you to take your bread and hold it. Jesus broke it, and he asked God's blessing upon it. And so tonight, we too ask for God's blessing on our nourishment. And so, Holy God, we ask that you would bless this bread, these crackers, these pieces of nourishment, whatever we have in our homes, that you would bless them so that they might be as your presence to us as we are gathered across time and space, across wires and satellites, that you would be here. And so bless this bread that we will share in a minute. And then likewise, Jesus took the cup. And it was a simple cup with leftover wine that they had been sharing and drinking. And I imagine sharing good stories and reminiscing about their time together, and also sharing some fears and some concerns about going forward. And so we too lift up this cup, and we ask God to bless it, that God might bless our conversations, our relationships, that God might comfort us in our fears and our worries. And so, Holy One, we ask that you would bless this juice, this water, this milk, this wine, whatever we have in our homes, that you would bless it and make it as your life presence among us, that it would nourish us for our journey and keep us sustained and fulfilled, and remind us that your very essence, the very essence of your life and your energy, flows through us. Jesus, when he broke the bread and he blessed the cup, he reminded his disciples to remember him every time they ate and drank. It wasn't just every time they had communion. It was every time they ate and drank, because they always had wine on the table, I'm pretty sure, or at least some sort of fruit of the vine. And they most likely almost always had bread. These were common things. He didn't bless the Passover lamb. He blessed the bread and the juice. And so we remember that love is present. God's divine presence is with us in the most common of things, in the very things we eat and drink and take into our body. And so, friends, I invite you to share the bread and the cup with those gathered with you or with yourself, the bread of life and the cup of blessing for you. So, friends, this is a short service. I just wanted to gather with you and remind you that you are loved, that in God's presence we are all loved, that you are not alone, and that we walk this journey hand in hand. And that we, like Peter, may resist being recipients of that love at times. And yet we, like Peter, are called to receive love, to receive God's grace, and then also called to go and do likewise. That we are called to be the presence of Christ in the world, the presence of God for each other. And so on this night, this Holy Thursday, we remember that Jesus gathered with those who were closest to him, and yet even still they struggled with what was happening. And so let us go forth into this night. I wanted to end with a song, and the one that keeps coming to me isn't the one I really want to sing, but I think because it's not the liturgically appropriate one. But I think maybe I will sing, I'm wanting to sing, I think as we go into this night, I think we'll sing Nada Te Turbe, which is a Taizé song. Nothing can trouble. Let me see if I can pull up the lyrics for y'all. Nothing can trouble, nothing can frighten. Music. Okay. So here's how it goes. Nothing can trouble, nothing can frighten. Those who seek God shall never go wanting. Nothing can trouble, nothing can frighten. God alone fills us. Nothing can trouble, nothing can frighten. Those who seek God shall never go wanting. Nothing can trouble, nothing can frighten. God alone fills us. Friends, go in peace. Be blessings to one another. Remember God's love every time you eat and drink. Remember the pouring out of God's grace every time you wash your hands, which hopefully is a lot these days. And remember to be receivers of love and givers of love as we are on this journey together. Peace, my friends. Good night.